I don't believe, and I just talked to the president, I don't think I'm being fired today. And I am not so frustrated in this job that I'm thinking of leaving. I would tell you, this is the hardest job I've ever had. This is, in my view, the most important job I ever had. I would offer, though, it is not the best job I ever had. Best job I ever had, as I've said many times, is when I was an enlisted Marine sergeant infantryman. That was the best job I ever had. So unless things change, I'm not quitting, I'm not getting fired, and I don't think I'll fire anyone tomorrow. So with that, John.
General Kelly, if I could, you said you're not so frustrated that you're thinking of leaving, but are you frustrated?
No, I'm not frustrated. This is really, really hard work, running the United States of America. I don't run it, but I'm working for someone who is dedicated to serving the country in the way that he's talked about for a number of years. There are incredible challenges, economic challenges, healthcare challenges, all of that, obviously international challenges that have to be dealt with. I don't mean any criticism to Mr. Trump's predecessors, but there was an awful lot of things that were, in my view, kicked down the road that have come home to roost pretty much right now that have to be dealt with. This is hard work, John. And my only frustration, with all due respect to everyone in the room, is when I come to work in the morning and read about things I allegedly said or things that Mr. Trump allegedly said or people who were going to be fired or whatever, and it's just not true. That's my frustration. I mean no disrespect to you all. I don't know all the names, so you.
I appreciate that, and thank you for coming out here today. We hope to see you more often. Let's go to one of the hard things that is facing you right now, the situation in Puerto Rico. And since you're here to speak for the president, let's talk about his tweet this morning. Does President Trump believe that the people of Puerto Rico are American citizens
Yes.
who deserve the same access to federal aid as the people who live in Texas and Florida?
Yes.
What is his tweet about then?
Which tweet?
The tweet where he says that we can't be in Puerto Rico forever.
I think he said the U.S. military and FEMA can't be there forever, right?
He did, yes.
Okay.
First responders,
First
FEMA
responders.
and
The
military.
minute you go anywhere as a first responder, and this would apply certainly to the military, you are trying very hard, working very hard to work yourself out of a job. There will be a period in which we hope sooner rather than later to where the U.S. military and FEMA, generally speaking, can withdraw, because then the government and the people of Puerto Rico are recovering sufficiently to start the process of rebuilding. I just got off the phone. I've talked to him many times, with the governor of Puerto Rico. Great relationship. President deals with him periodically. We saw him when we were down there last week. So, this country, our country, will stand with those American citizens in Puerto Rico until the job is done. But the tweet about FEMA and DOD, read military, is exactly accurate. They're not going to be there forever. And the whole point is to start to work yourself out of a job and then transition to the rebuilding process.
You talk about frustrations. Peel back the curtain for us, since you're in a first row vantage point with the president. What are his frustrations right now? And secondly, a big decision that's going to be upcoming is the Fed chair position, possibly here in the next few weeks or upcoming months. Where does that stand? How actively is the administration engaging that at this moment?
One of his frustrations is you, all of you, not all of you, but many of you. As I say, when I first started talking, again, I'm a reasonable guy, but when I read in the morning, I read I won't tell you what I read, but and watch TV in the morning, it is astounding to me how much is misreported. I will give you the benefit of the doubt that you are operating off of contacts, leaks, whatever you call them. But I would just offer to you the advice. I'd say, maybe develop some better sources. Some person that works way down inside an office, or just develop some better sources. The Congress has been frustrating to him. Of course, Our government is designed to be slow, and it is. His sense, I think, as a man who is outside of the Washington arena, a businessman, much more of a man of action. I would say his great frustration is the process that he now finds himself, because in his view, the solutions are obvious. You know, whether it's tax cuts and tax reform, health care, infrastructure programs, strengthening our military. To him, these all seem like obvious things that need to be done to protect the American people, bring jobs back. These are all the things that he sees as vital to protect the American people, to advance American economy and whatnot. And the process is so slow and so hard sometimes to deal with. So I think those two things.
And the Fed, where does everything stand with the Fed right now? Are you guys days away, weeks away?
Some time away. I mean, there's still ongoing interviews, but every candidate. I mean, I'm trying to learn about things that have to do with what you're talking about. But all of the people that have been into interview have been really first-round draft choices, and we have more to come. And it's a very measured process. He has great, obviously, advisors to help him make that decision.
Thank you. President
Are
Trump
the people in the
has-
front row like the most important people, or is it?
Not at
No,
all.
seriously, how do you end up?
We're the cannon fodder. We're the first in line when they start shooting.
Okay.
General Kelly, thank you so much, and thanks for being here today. President Trump in recent days has gotten into a bit of a war of words with Senator Bob Corker, the latest Republican who he's had a public feud with. As his chief of staff, are you concerned that he's jeopardizing his agenda by feuding with members of his own party?
I'm not. I mean, he's a straightforward guy, the president is. That's the one thing I've found he is. I have found him, 9 weeks in the job, willing to work with anyone to advance the agenda being what's good for America, what protects America. You've seen him reach out to these people on the other side of the aisle. I think, not to get into, well, let me just say that when members of Congress say things that are unfair or critical, the president has a right to defend himself. When I read about things that are what I would perceive to be unfair or critical, unnecessarily critical, I will call members of Congress and just ask, is there anything I can do to help you with that misconception you have, or maybe explain to you why I did this or that. Oftentimes, members of Congress that I talk to will say, geez, I didn't realize it came out that way, I'm sorry, or no, I meant it, but it was kind of a grown-up comment, and so I'll take that to the president and say, but then there's others that are, as the president would say, grandstanding. I'm not saying Senator Corker's that way, I'm just saying that some people grandstand and kind of enjoy the attention.
Have you called Bob
I've
Corker?
talked to
But in
Senator
the wake
Corker.
of this recent
I've talked to Bob
fight?
Corker, yeah.
And do his tweets make your job more difficult, General Kelly?
No. I mean, the job of the chief of staff is to staff the president, give him the best advice, or go get the best advice I can give him, help him consume advice, help him work through the decision-making process in an informed way. But that's my job, and that's what I do.
President Trump going to visit India? Is President Trump going to?
Someone asked me then.
Trump going to?
Yeah.
Thank you, General Kelly. I have a question about the tweets. That's a big part of this administration. Do they get you by surprise, and are they official statements? And on the war against North Korea, what are the chances? Should the American people be worried about the war?
It's two questions.
Yes.
Which one should I answer?
Both.
The American people should be concerned about a state that has developed a pretty good ICBM capability and is developing a pretty good nuclear reentry vehicle. I would believe, I think I speak for the administration, that state simply cannot have the ability to reach the homeland, and for that matter, the homeland, Right now, there's great concern about a lot of Americans that live in Guam. Right now, we think the threat is manageable, but over time, if it grows beyond where it is today, well, let's hope diplomacy works. As far as the tweets go, it's funny. I read in the paper. Well, you all know, you write it, that I've been a failure at controlling the president, or a failure at controlling his tweeting and all that. I was not sent in, or I was not brought to this job to control anything but the flow of information to our president so that he can make the best decisions. I have found that Mr. Trump, from the day I met him, he's a decisive guy. He's a very thoughtful man, I should say. He takes information in from every avenue he can receive it. I restrict no one, by the way, from going in to see him. But when we go in to see him now, rather than onesies and twosies, we go in and help him collectively understand what he needs to understand to make these vital decisions. So again, I was not sent into or brought in to control him, and you should not measure my effectiveness as a chief of staff by what you think I should be doing, but simply the fact is, I can guarantee to you that he is now presented with options, well thought out options. Those options are discussed in detail with his team, and then he comes up with the right decision. But it's always, always, always focused on protecting America and advancing America's economic development, jobs for America, safety for Americans, and with that,